We are very excited to have with us Chief Andrés González of Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority, most affectionately known as Chief. He has served as the Chief of Police since 2007. He is the oldest of 8 children, and he grew up in public housing in a 23-story building in the Bronx. He entered law enforcement in 1981, so if you do your arithmetic, he's been in law enforcement for almost 40 years. Hard to believe you're that old, Chief. He scored 100% on his entrance exam. He began his career with the City of Cleveland Police Department, quickly rose in the ranks, and became commander in 1999. Chief believes that there is no greater honor than to serve others. He serves as a role model for those in his the housing units, as well as with his force. He is a role model exemplifying trust, respect, understanding, and integrity. He also serves in the community on the boards of the Positive Education Program, the Partnership for a Safer Cleveland, Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Cleveland, and is very active in DARE on multiple local, regional, state, and national levels. He's the recipient of more awards than we have time to list this afternoon, all rightly deserved, and his great responsibilities include 10,000 units of public housing, 55,000 people. He responds, probably personally, to 38,000 calls a year. He's a lover of Johnny hot dogs and Lake Erie sunsets, and a proud member of the Leadership Cleveland class of 2013. Chief, thank you for joining us today. I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Marianne. And good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Rachel, thank you for being persistent. And I know you used whatever clout you had to get in. I see my classmate in here, Christina, where are you? There you go. So I see Susie Porter, it's good to see you. And all my other friends out there, it's good to see you. So let me start my remarks by saying that we are the mouse that roared is what I call us. I say that because the men and women that serve on our police department, they go unnoticed, but yet they make a huge difference in the lives of probably 56,000 people that we work with. Typically, CMHA, just to give you a background on that, we are, I believe at this time, we are the 6th, if not the 7th largest housing authority in the United States. We are the first. We were the first public housing authority formed back in 1933, and we set the model for all other public housing authorities as to what type of housing, what type of services should be attached to the housing, and basically how can we help people move from a level of poverty into perhaps home ownership or just a better place in their lives. I've had the honor, as Marianne said, of serving in this capacity for the past 13 years. And I can tell you without a doubt that I probably have the most exciting job in Cuyahoga County, for sure, in law enforcement. I wake up every morning excited for the new challenges that are in front of us. And of course, you know, as a leader of our organization, the #1 job for me is to be their cheerleader. And that's exactly what I try to do. I do try to provide what we call personal policing. Basically what that means is that I recognize and our team recognizes that we are all human beings. And so we try to not so much focus on the badge that we wear and the authority of our office, but more on human beings. And as human beings, we know that we make mistakes. And so I'll be the first one to say, I am not perfect. I make mistakes all the time. And actually, one of the themes on my team, especially with our command staff, is I tell them, I expect us to make mistakes. And I say that because the only way to learn and the only way to advance is through mistakes. One of the things that I am most proud of is the relationship that we have with the community that we serve. Just to give you an idea, CMHA has about 60 properties. I say about because I think we're in a process of selling one, but we have 60 properties that we are responsible, or at least that I'm responsible for, in providing public safety. And among the 60 properties, we have upwards of probably, I would say 22, if not 23,000 residents that live in those 60 developments. And then, of course, the other side of CMHA is what's called the Section 8. We now call it the Housing Choice Voucher Program. And those, we work directly with landlords throughout the county to provide an opportunity for residents to get into different neighborhoods and away from the structure of a public housing and get more into a single house. One of the things that our team is really focused on is building trust in the community. And the way we do that is, I mentioned that we are a human organization. The other way that we do that is whenever I meet with residents, of course, with the pandemic, it's difficult to have meetings now. But one of the messages that I give to them is that we apologize for the mistakes of the past. And what I mean by that is that we always didn't get it right. We always thought that law enforcement knows what to do. Law enforcement are the experts in addressing the major crimes, and it's true that we were, but we missed something very, very important, which was the connection to the people that we serve. And so the focus for me and the focus for our team, and I call our team Team Gonzo. Marianne likes to refer me as Chief. I keep telling her it's Andy. And for those that know me, it's Gonzo. So our team's nickname is Team Gonzo. And so one of the things that we focus on as we go through the neighborhoods is an effort, an initiative that I call Walk and Talk. Basically, our officers get out of the vehicle. Sometimes you have to force them to get out of the vehicle, but nonetheless, they get out of the vehicle. And the goal is just to have proactive discussions. It doesn't have to be crime related. It doesn't have to be addressing any specific issue, but just to have proactive conversations with our residents, with the youth. We go into the high rises and we just try to engage as best as we can. The reason for that, I think that the success of any law enforcement agency is its effort to meet people where they're at. I think that a lot of agencies make a mistake and try to get the community to meet the department where we're at, but it should really be the other way around. We try to meet the community where they're at, and we adjust our level of services, whether it be law enforcement service, whether it be a connection with social services, whatever is needed, we try to meet them at where they're at. We're a very strong community policing organization. A lot of police departments may say that they engage in community policing, but it's typically through a specialized unit. For us at CMHA, community policing is the philosophy that's embedded into every single man and woman that works in our department. So it's not exclusive to one unit. It's not exclusive to one person, but it's a combination, it's a collaboration of all the officers out there engaged in community policing. So what is community policing? Well, in its simplest form, and to make it operational, community policing is just engaging with the community. That's it. It's no magic. It's not difficult. It's just how much effort and how much priority will a police department give into engaging the community and inviting the community to address quality of life issues, to address crime issues, to address whatever is happening out in the community. So one of the things that I've learned through community policing is that we ask for feedback from the community. And one of the questions that we ask is, what do you want us to do? What kind of enforcement strategies, what kind of policing would you like to see us engage in? And believe it or not, the number one comment that I get back from our residents is that they want us to address noise complaints, they want us to address speeding complaints, and then they want us to address quality of life complaints. For example, the selling drugs in the corner, the loitering, the gang activity, all those things. You would think that the number one thing would be perhaps the shootings, the homicides, the rapes, but it really isn't. But that doesn't mean that we're not engaged in those efforts. I mean, that's equally as important. But it's important that we meet people, that we provide a level of service that the community wants us to provide. Now, I will say this, in the past 3 or 4 months, ever since this pandemic has hit the Cleveland, Northeast Ohio, it's been very, very challenging, very difficult to continue our level of engagement, simply because at its core, community policing is face-to-face interaction, attending meetings, having those personal relationships. So needless to say, as I can see by the backgrounds and other people, I see Tom's background, he's over at Progressive Field, I think, over there. But I see by different backgrounds that a lot of us are at home. Well, the police department, we can't work from home. And so, but we have to do is abide by the guidance that's given to us from CDC, from the doctors, the professionals, that says that we need to limit, if not stop, any one-on-one contact with person. It's only recently that the social distancing and the face mask issue is now enabling us to reconnect. And actually, just this past week, we are working through our initiative to re-engage the community in that somewhat maintaining social distance, but maintaining that personal contact with them. But certainly the pandemic has created a big challenge for us in continuing to deliver the services that we have. And I will admit also that in the middle of this pandemic, it's no secret, but this social unrest, this social justice issue has also had a significant impact into how we provide service. And what I mean by that is, one of the things that we are very proud of at CMHA is our nationally recognized effort called PAR. It stands for Police Assisted Referral. And it's achieved a lot of national acclaim. And at its core of PAR is our ability to refer an individual that is experiencing a level of trauma, is experiencing a crisis, directly with social services. And so in the middle of the pandemic, of course, that became very, very strained. But then with the social justice issue, as it's hitting us, it became a little bit more strained for us, more challenging, because we have to be very cautious and we have to be very intentional in our conversation with the community that we serve, because we don't want to be misunderstood. And that really, again, I keep saying that I'm very proud of the men and women in our department, because in the middle of all these challenges that we have been experiencing, whether it be the pandemic, whether it be the social justice movement, and just basically the inability to connect with people, we have still been able to maintain a level of service, a very high level of service. We have still been able to connect individuals in crisis, individuals that have experienced trauma, with our social service partners, albeit through virtual or through digital, through the internet, but we have still been able to do that. And perhaps the thing that I'm really proud of is the fact that if you have noticed, there have been different law enforcement agencies throughout Northeast Ohio that have been specifically targeted for protests and for demonstrations. For the climate that we are in and the environment of which we serve, I am very, very proud to say that we have not experienced any protests, any demonstration in front of our headquarters. I have not been fielding any calls asking for adjustment. On the contrary, we get a lot more calls now and saying, can you now provide service in our community? Can you come over and help us out with this? And we are actively involved with our colleagues, with our professional law enforcement officers across the region in explaining how is it that we are able to maintain our level of trust, our level of collaboration with the residents that we serve in the hopes that they can emulate some of the stuff that we're doing. So if you haven't read me correctly, I am very, very proud of the men and women in our department. I can go on and on and on and on, but I only have like 10 minutes, so I'm just going to stop my comments there and see what kind of questions you may have. So thank you for this opportunity to share what we're doing at CMHA.
Chief, thank you so much for sharing all of the work of the department, and we have had a few questions come in. So to start, can you talk a little bit about CMHA's relationship with the Cleveland Police Department?
So we have what's called a mutual aid agreement between the CMHA Police Department and the Cleveland Police Department. And what that means is that if you see a Cleveland police officer, you see a CMHA officer. We have the same powers, we have the same authority. And we agreed through this mutual aid agreement, we agreed to assist each other in responding to calls for service, in responding to criminal activity, and also in conducting follow-up investigations. Now, one of the things I will say is that I am very, protective of our relationship, because I don't want our police department, the men and women in our department, to be caught up in with what's going on with the Cleveland Division Police, basically the consent decree. So for as close as we both work together, I think it's a great testament that the Department of Justice and those significant stakeholders have not included the CMHA Police Department with the consent decree. But having said that, we still enjoy a good relationship. Our officers understand Cleveland officers. Cleveland officers are now starting to begin to understand CMHA officers. As a matter of fact, some of the Cleveland, we did an effort probably about 3-4 months ago, where Cleveland police officers was riding along with our officers just to see how is it that we engage and try to define or understand the level of trust that we have been able to develop with our residents.
How do you support new officers in incorporating the personal policing model, or new leaders who are modeling it, as it might be different than prior experiences they've had?
So the first thing that I do when I welcome new officers to our team is I call them family members. During the swearing-in ceremony, I can't do it now, obviously, because of the pandemic, but we would invite the entire family, all their friends, and when I administer the oath of office to them, I invite not only their significant other, but I invite the entire family up to the front as they raise their right hand. And one of the final words that I say to them is, welcome to the family. And so I think that that's very important, because beyond being a police officer and the duty to protect and all those things associated with an oath of office, I think it's very important that as a young officer is transitioning into service, that they understand that they are part of a family. if you look at your family structure, you know, a family is a place where you feel safe. A family is a place where you can have honest conversations. A family is a place where you can build trust, where you can have a relationship. And I try to create that same environment here with the men and women in our department. Sometimes it's challenging, you know, just like any family, you got to discipline. You got to put people in timeout. You know, sometimes your family member acts like a knucklehead, and you just got to, as we say, you know, address the knucklehead behavior. And we're very, very good at addressing the behavior and not the person, because we understand that it's my responsibility to ensure that we have a healthy human being that's going out into the community to work with the people that need help the most. It does us no good if a disgruntled employee, and I do have disgruntled employees, don't get me wrong, but it does us no good if a person is angry at the system, at the department, and then expected to give a level of service out there. So basically, it's a team environment. It's a family environment that we try to create. And then at the same time, we focus in on our core values. You heard Marianne talk a little bit about our core values: tenacity, respect, understanding, providing service, and of course, focusing on the training.
So as you've been able to connect with residents over the past few months during the pandemic and during the times of the social unrest, what are some of the challenges that you are hearing from them that they are facing, and how might the department be able to help address those challenges?
So I think that one of the biggest challenges that we've faced, and probably still continue facing, is the sense of empowerment and the sense of building up. And so many times we hear in different circles that individuals in public housing don't really understand the culture of public housing. They think that it's all bad people. They think that it's all people who are prone to criminal activity. Well, the truth is that probably about 85 to 87% of the criminal activity at CMHA, or public housing for us, is transacted by people who don't live in public housing. The other flip side is that, you know, the people that we serve, they are going through human issues just like anybody else in any other community. It's just a little bit more challenging for us because of access. You know, we hear this term equality versus equity. Well, I think that we've done a pretty decent job at equality, but we have a lot more work to do at building equity, which means giving equal access, making sure that they have avail themselves of different services, of different things that are available in the community, in the neighborhood. So that's where our PAR, our Police Assisted Referral program, really pays a lot of dividends for us, because in a great sense, it's about empowering an individual that has experienced a very traumatic, a very negative situation. The other side too, I would say, is about our youth. It's about our kids. And so, you know, what we try to work with mom and dad and the community as a whole is really to oversee and watch out for our youth. And in some ways, our youth are being exposed to situations that they should really not be exposed to, whether it be inside the family or out in the community. And so we really try to work with the youth and our social service providers to explain that this is not normal, you know, that there's another way of doing things. But I think for the most part, our residents are very bright. I mean, when we engage with them about solutions to problems in our neighborhoods, they are very, very forthcoming. They have some very sound ideas, and they have a lot of great ideas that they pass along also for the betterment of city of Cleveland and Cuyahoga County.
So for those of us on the call who are interested in supporting you and your work, what do you need from the community? How can we support you?
Was not expecting that question, but I think the biggest level of support is accepting of people, regardless of who they are, where they come from, just the acceptance of people and understanding that we are all, we come from different backgrounds, but at the same time, we're, to borrow the slogan, we're all in this together. And so whenever there's an opportunity to, well, we can't shake hands nowadays, but whenever there's an opportunity to reach out to an individual, I would say that I'll use Susie Porter as an example because she's been very, very active with us. It's really about meeting people where they're at. No matter what the situation is, it's about meeting people where they're at. It's about looking at their eyes. It's about accepting who they are, not drawing judgment, not passing judgment, and in many sense, just a simple, how you doing will go a long way. In regards to supporting the police department or law enforcement, I think that the best way to do that is when it's time to advocate or when it's time to maybe write an article or write or do whatever it is that within your community you feel comfortable on doing, go ahead and express yourself. And believe it or not, we do read those articles, we do read those letters, and at least from my point of view, I do try to interpret it as much of that information that I receive. I do try to interpret it into action and pass it along with the men and women in our department.
We have time for one more question. So over the past few months, it certainly have been some very challenging times. And throughout that, what are some things that might have brought you joy during that time?
Summertime. What's really brought me joy is hot weather. And for those of you out there, I love hot weather. I think that recently seeing the stay-at-home order being revised and seeing people out in the streets, seeing them out in the courtyard is happy. It's good for me because, again, with the social distancing criteria now, I can at least get within 6 feet of them, and we can try to re-engage. On a personal note, I think that what brings me great joy is whenever I can get down to Lake Erie and I can just stare out on the lake, and perhaps I'll have my favorite adult beverage in one hand and maybe a hot dog and a hamburger on the other hand. That brings me a lot of joy. So.
Well, Chief, thank you so much. And I think many of us would very much agree with you on that bringing us joy too. And we thank you for all of the work that you and your department do for the community. And thank you for your time today.
Thank you,
With
Rachel.
that, I'm going to turn it back to Mary Ann.
Thanks so much, Rachel. Well, Chief, thank you. We're very fortunate to have you in a leadership role and to have a dedicated Team Gonzo behind you, making sure that our residents are well taken care of and safe. So thank you for all that you do.